Hello everyone. So the reason I want to make this video is to try and help understand the different ways we can talk about a glass of wine. This is so that we can better describe the wines that we drink by talking about the things that we like or even don't like about a wine. But for us to do this, we need to first understand the four basic components that actually contribute to the taste of the wine. This is so that when we evaluate a glass of wine, we know what we're actually looking for. So the four basic components that we're going to talk about in this video are acidity, tannins, sweetness, and the aromas that you get in a wine. So let's talk about acidity. Acidity is found in all fruits. In fact, wine which is made from grapes is one of the most acidic beverages you'll find. Its acidity levels are very similar to that of orange juice. So one way to experience acidity is by biting into a piece of lemon. And when you do this, you'll experience a very tart, astringent, sour sensation in your mouth. And that is what acidity basically is. Now, one thing to remember is that the riper the fruit, the lower will be the acidity levels. So you'll find that in many of your white wines, or even sparkling wines for that matter, the acidity levels are much higher. And that's because the grapes of these wines are picked much earlier during the harvest stage. And this way, the grapes preserve a lot of its freshness and its acidity levels as well. Red wines, on the other hand, have a much lower levels of acidity level as when compared to white wines. And that is because grapes of red wines are picked at a later stage during harvest. So this gives the grape bunch more time to ripen and thereby reducing its acidity levels. But nonetheless, red wines also have a decent amount of acidity. Acidity is very important in wine. It's basically the backbone of a wine. If you drink a wine that has got no levels of or very low levels of acidity, it's going to taste very flabby and very unpleasant. Acidity also helps preserve wines. You'll notice that wines with higher levels of acidity can last for much longer periods of time. And that is because high acidity levels in wines can make it very unstable for microorganisms like bacteria to thrive, thereby preventing wines from getting spoiled. Acidity can make wine pair very well with food. For example, high acidic wines can tone down the heat levels of spicy food. It can also cut right through fat, making a fatty food taste less fatty, and also improve on the flavors of the food. So now let's talk about tannins. Tannins are found in many plants, and when it comes to grapes, they are found on the skins as well as the seeds and the stem of the bunch. Now, if you want to experience tannins, you can do this by leaving a tea bag in hot water for, let's say, 20 minutes. And by doing this, you're going to end up having a tea that's going to taste a lot bitter as well as leaving a drying sensation in the mouth. And that what you experience is tannins. So red wines contain the most amount of tannins, and that is because red wine is made from fermented grape juice that are in contact with the skins of grapes. So a lot of the tannins are actually leached into the wine as a result. Tannins give red wine its structure, it adds to the texture as well as gives it the deep color that you see in the wine. White wine, on the other hand, have got far less tannins, and that is because white wine is made from fermented grape juice that have no contact or very little contact with the skins of grapes. So now let's talk about sweetness in wine. When we talk about sweetness, we generally use the term residual sugar. Now, residual sugars are those sugars that have not been fully converted into alcohol during the process of fermentation. So there's always a leftover amount of sugar present in the wine as a result. So to put it plain and simple, higher the residual sugar, the sweeter the wine tastes. So when we talk about wines like your dessert wines or port wines, they've got very high amount of residual sugar, hence it tastes very luscious and sweet. Now, even your dry wines have got a certain amount of residual sugar, but you're looking in terms of 1 gram to 10 grams per liter of sugar, so it's not that. Don't taste these sugars in dry wines, but they do impart a quality of fruitiness to an extent, or it gives you that perception of fruit when you have these low amounts of sugar in wine. So now finally we have aromas, which is a key component that contributes to the taste and the flavor of the wine. Now there are thousands of aroma compounds that are formed as a byproduct of the fermentation process. And very often, many of these aroma compounds are the exact same aromas that you would find in strawberries, in your bananas, your flowers, vegetables, you name it. And that is exactly why you hear many of the wine experts that talk about these flavors and aromas that they get from the wine. In the end, it's the interactions of all these four components that gives you that final experience when you enjoy that glass of wine. So I hope this video gives you a bit of insight into the foundations of wine. And with this information, I intend to make a future video on how to evaluate and appreciate wines using a few sensory techniques. So I hope this video helps. Thank you.